Well said, Lore. Welcome everyone to the arena as we're moments away now from getting into the game. The players will start their walkouts. I'm Drakos, joined by Jackspektra and Dagda to bring you this thrilling best of 5. 4 teams left in the LEC, but in just a few hours, it'll only be 3.
It feels like this is the beginning of the final stages of the LEC where every team can actually compete. And there's no blowout games anymore. I'm so hyped for this matchup. I can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah, especially since this is our top 4 coming in from the regular split now left remaining. But it remains to be seen who will be going home. A very happy lad today. Because I will say, I don't think a lot of people expected it to be Fnatic versus KC coming into this 4th place match.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's kind of sad even that one of these 2 teams will already be heading home. I thought this could be a potential final. But one of them have to eliminate the other. And I hope for a 5-game back.
I think 5 games is the dream of everyone here, except for probably the players on stage. Given the upcoming week, and remember that if you do make it, you're at the bottom of the gauntlet. You have to play MCoy, and then even if you beat them, you have to also be ready for G2. This is such an arduous position for these teams to be in. But now as you get in the first picks and bans, see what the priority looks like. Heard the devs talk about it a little. Top lane is kind of the big question mark. Oscar's busted out some carries, but they put him on tank duty towards the end of the GX series, and I wonder if we see the same here up against a player at the caliber of Canna.
I mean, it worked for MCoy, right? They ended up bringing out stuff like the Galio from Mirren to try and answer into Rumble. Like, they did a ton of ways of just trying to nullify Canna's impact in the game, and we'll have to see if that's going to be a similar story for Fnatic, because they have looked best when they're able to play around their bottom lane and get upset into a lead. So I think that's going to be the first way they're going to set themselves up.
Yeah, I don't really see skill checking Canna as Oscarin's best option. I think just kind of accepting that you maybe lose, send resource towards that bot side. The Caliste and Targamas, Caliste had a great winter, but in Spring Split, he's been pretty muted. He still had the good team fights, but laning phase, I felt there's a lot to be desired from him, and I think that's a great avenue for Fnatic to exploit.
Yeah, I mean, the 2v2 laning phase of Upset and Mikyx is the best in the league, right? If there's a reason that they were voted of all members on their team, all-pro. And it's something that we'll have to see how Calista and Targamas contend with. Interesting, those mismatches, because as much as the worst part about late season best of 5s is you can talk about any lane. So I guess in that sense, we'll just let the draft guide us to see what's important, because it's weird to start a series not mentioning Razork, Humanoid, or Yike Vladi in this equation.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at the draft so far, it's interesting to see that Taliyah going to be left open, Rumble left open. Okay, Taliyah gone, but also then, as I was saying, the Rumble still unavailable as well. So
the Warwick ban first 3 is also very peculiar. Yeah. Maybe that's for Ambessa blind pick or something like that. That was a BB. He loved that into the Ambessa.
Perhaps something showing up in scrims that
could be.
We haven't seen too much.
I mean, Oscarinin played it as well.
Yeah, did. Yeah. It's interesting that it's lived on, the legacy of the counter pick. This would be a bold B1.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Wow. I mean, it's
still
Canna,
bold. Still
Canna
bold.
Jayce, you know, Canna Jayce.
Yep.
He doesn't speak much European on that pick. He's looking fantastic on it.
Doesn't speak much European. That's interestingly the most American thing you've ever said. Doesn't speak European. All right, Canna. This is the thing, is you can see Oscar already like, all right, boys, now we have to decide. We know I will be on a weaker laning phase champion, but how committed are we? Am I taking a Kennen or am I taking an Ornn?
When I'm seeing Jayce, I think just a Sion or something like that is just great into it, right? Something I can just hold lane, scale up against it. I love this Kalista from Upset, targets that bottom lane, it can really snowball.
Also, I like the Pantheon, right? And I think that was what KC were reading with the Warwick ban, is that we're going to take the Jayce, leave that Pantheon to go across. And it does nullify in some aspects what Canna can do, especially when you hit 6, Pantheon being able to cover for a lot of those side lanes means that impact can be a little bit difficult to have as Jayce. But okay.
Fighting fire with fire here. Caliste, he wants to fight. He wants to brawl.
Are you ready to talk about Draven? That's my question, because I don't think you've updated your Season 15 Draven guide. I haven't checked your YouTube recently.
So this matchup is one that used to be very Draven favored, but as Kalista has kind of, in a way, gotten stronger in the early game, she can now contest him more, and is definitely more of a skill matchup these days. I think Upset has the upper hand. Caliste, while being a decent Draven, I don't think he's quite on the level of someone like Hansama that I feel like really knows the limits.
Yeah. But perhaps a message to be sent here if he can find that performance. Of course, Wukong now alongside is something Yike pulled out yesterday. Some skepticism as if people like Yike on the farm to 6 junglers, but the Wukong is definitely a little better than the Vi. And now the Sion, kind of like you guys talked about, right? One of the champions that can graciously scale through a difficult lane.
But now I'm looking for support. I think Nico is an incredible power pick for both teams because it's just the most OP laning support. and it just pokes out so incredibly well.
Yeah, I think stuff like the Renata as well for this Kalista is going to be very, very strong. So yeah, I think you've got two very clear bans here if you're KC, especially since Fnatic can pick it up on the next rotation. But the Braum is actually more worth worried about. So the engage for Targamas trying to be nullified by the Braum seems their biggest fear.
I think KC is in a bit of a tough position because either Fnatic can choose to blind pick a really strong support in the Nico or the Renata, or they can choose the last pick support, in which case if they get something like the Braum, it can be great into the Draven, great into the Wukong. They just have a lot of good options for Fnatic right now.
Yeah, and I think as well, even just for Humanoid, he's been happy to go for some of the counter picks. Like we've seen the Aurelion Sol creep up as kind of one of his picks. And I don't really think you want to give Vladi access to, hey, can I go for something like the Silas or the Akali that he's been practicing all split? Trying to force him into a bit more of a blind mid lane seems a nice option for Fnatic.
On the Gwen ban as well, presuming that maybe the Jayce could be flexed into mid. That's interesting. Because that could, a big counter pick onto the Sion here could be really big. Because Sion blind pick can be really exploited.
Yeah, a champion that you know for in pro play for the most part giving pretty consistent value, but almost entirely because people aren't picking him in situations where you're going to get completely blown out by a strong, in this case, AP counter pick, something like the Gwen. So they do ban it. Now potentially the conservative choice mid lane, and to your point earlier, they are saving counter pick for support. So not immediately rushing to get their hands on that Nico. And KC in a tough spot because they need that magic damage from somewhere. Probably sole AP source means you're looking at some sort of control major carry.
I'm curious if they go for something like the Hwei and just say, look, we're going to farm it out in mid lane, and then we've got two very long-range damage dealers in the Jayce and the Hwei that can do a lot of work. And whenever you try to engage, then you kind of just open up the Draven to play a bit more freely in the fight. But we'll have to see exactly what the game plan is.
I was thinking Orianna or Hwei, just kind of a standard control mage. You have decent ball delivery with the Wukong. And they go for the Nautilus as well. The only worry I have now is I feel like if Fnatic decide to go for the Nico, it can be a really hard matchup for the Draven. They can even decide to go for something like the Alistar and just scale. I just feel like when you're blind picking support with Draven in a really close matchup, it can be really hard to get that edge that you really want.
And, you know, what Rob mentioned earlier, that long-range game plan, there's not always space for a Draven to work. Very often when we see Draven at his best is these games where you're finding a ton of kills, you're snowballing, short-range champions that you can just completely abuse. But if he's not the one that gets ahead, if he's not the one that snowballs, he's kind of you know, he's a passenger, I think, for the rest of the team comp. We'll see what he's able to do here. Obviously an intense 2v2 match, but the final pick there is the Rell. So not the Alistar, but just matching a little bit of teamfight gauge with teamfight engage. Didn't feel the need, I suppose, to go for the more aggressive laning option, just wanting a bit more reliable engage.
Yeah, and to pick up on that, it ends up being a pretty good matchup for Draven Nautilus. You can hook in early, you can generate pressure. You do have the slower clearing Wukong, so I don't quite see this bot lane matchup as being completely blown out of the water. I think it'll be relatively slow game. And we'll see if Canna can actually build that top lead. I think that's KC's biggest wake up.
I think, though, one of the things that Fnatic have been very good at is how they rotate around the map with upset when they have him on the Kalista. So I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of get these, 4.5, 5-minute swaps, and suddenly they're trying to dive Canna or make plays up towards Canna as well. So we'll have to see exactly how they're going to operate, because, again, when you have a Sion, these swaps become very easy to operate.
If you can mismatch in this game, it would be fantastic for Fnatic. I think playing for those grubs, and especially denying them from this Jayce so that you can't get free plays, is going to be huge.
Eyes on the top side of the map, seeing what Fnatic can do to disrupt Canna, whether it's Oscar in the 1v1, although it might be a tough task, obviously, with Jayce and the Sion, or if Fnatic are able to free Upset and Mikyx from this bottom lane, get them more active on the map, whether it's through resets or roams. We'll have to find out. Game 1, KC versus Fnatic. Top 2 seeds heading into playoffs, now fighting for 3rd place. Expectations changing rapidly, and again, the thing on all of our minds is I think we just want to see the best series possible, but we're also all have to recognize that the most recent tape for both these teams was full of that inconsistency. So see who has the stronger mental, see who's been able to prepare better coming into the last game of the week. Both these teams, of course, playing a best of 5 once already.
I love both of these drafts. I think there's so much explosivity on both teams. There's so much you can do, and I like the fact that Upset has Barrier, while Caliste has Cleanse. He kind of has to go Cleanse against the Rell Q, against the Pantheon later on, but that does mean that in the direct 2v2s early on, Upset has the health advantage. Maybe can look to leverage that to actually fight in this lane early. I think if either side snowballs, this game is just blown wide open.
Yep. On a side note, one thing that we did forget to celebrate, we have to remember of, is Mikyx hitting 6,000 assists in the LEC. This happened in the previous series. So quick shout out. I imagine he will get at least 1 or 2 more in a best of 5 series.
Also, congrats on 9 years. We heard on the desk as well, the man has been playing for 9 years in the LEC, which is a phenomenal feat for that very, very few pro players manage to hit.
It's crazy it's been so long. It doesn't feel that long.
Nostalgic started with Wonder on a roster coached by Yamato Cannon. A LeBlanc quadra-kill, I think, was the only highlight of that team in their first split. Mickey came in, they managed to get top 2 before losing to G2, something Mickey has experienced a few times now across his career. So, very historic player. In contrast to, I think, Caliste on the opposite side, right? One of the youngest players in the league. Looking to make a name for himself here. And the 2v2, nothing too fancy quite yet. You highlighted. They had the option to go Nico, but they didn't. So we have a much more even 2v2, at least around level 1.
Upset also missed his round on the first creep, so that's why they went for a very aggressive trade to start. So at least already, Caliste and Targamas looking to try and punish small mistakes from the bot side. And I think coming into today, this was definitely the matchup that a lot of people had their eyes on, was how Caliste and Targamas were going to handle against Upset and Mickey, because they have been very dominant in that 2v2.
Yeah, early lanes as Kalista, it's pretty typical you lose push against the Draven, especially Kalista went for the 2 axes going into lane, leashing it off of the red buff. I'd say it's around like level 6 that this matchup really starts to unwind a little bit for the Kalista, because you have so much engaged threat, and your support can play so cocky because you can always save him.
And Upset on Kalista has been one of the power picks for this team, although he hasn't frequently gotten his hands on it. Still 4 games across spring, not a bad look, but good so far that KC have at least been able to take a few of these pesky early levels out of the equation. And
I think the way they've done it is Razork playing heavily for the bottom side instead of the play. So here we go.
Going for a quick engage. Kalista now caught out. Decent amount of damage coming from Upset. The flash forward, flash response going from Kalista. Getting the blood rush. A little bit more movement. Steve waits for the extra spear. Full confidence on the retreat. He will walk away with his life.
But it's a big mistake from Caliste here. He takes the tower shot and allows Mickey to flash in. And I feel like we've seen this before from Caliste. He gets a little bit over-eager in lane. And now losing both sums, I think this is really easy for Razork to exploit.
And that's what I was going to say, especially as we were just saying, Razork loves to play around this Kalista, set it up. But now you've got a summonerless AD carry that he can look to play towards. And even in the early rotation, Yike didn't immediately go into bot side, place that ward that you can see on your screen there to spot out exactly where Razork was. And if he was going to try to interact on this bottom half of the map, and it feels like it's just a moment waiting to happen after that play.
Pings down toward the bottom side. Razork at least thinking about making that play. We go back to what both teams wanted, something we mentioned earlier. Canna doing well topside, unsurprisingly, building himself up an early gold lead, keeping that pressure topside. Fnatic one step closer to getting themselves out of this lane, being able to swap around the map, snowballing Upset and Mickey.
This is very good hold here by Caliste. He's able to pull the wave, so rather than it now bouncing back into Fnatic, it's actually going to freeze, which then makes Fnatic's bot lane swap instead of running back into this bot side, because they don't want to try to unwind this freeze and lose a ton of CS on Upset. Instead, Oscar going to TP back down and catch that wave.
Here's the lane assignments we were waiting for. Of course, the later grub spawn means this is mostly to put the lanes in a more optimal state rather than swapping for an objective or to trade cross map, but still obviously something Canna does not want anything to do with. Laning counterpick does not feel so good in the 2v1.
Yeah, you can see him TPing down there to match the Sion. The Targamas is going to roam up, but I do think you're still going to get the push here for Upset and Mickey, and they kind of now have that control where you can start to swap around the map as you feel fit, and just make sure that you're never really playing into some of these matchups that KC want to try and abuse. So, yeah, I was going to say, you see it here, just go for the swap immediately and just not play the lane.
It's great. They got, you know, they got the early lane swaps out of the game, but we still get a little bit of that experience.
I mean, just mismatching the Sion here into enemy bot lane is exactly what they want to try. And maybe they can even look for a gank onto Canna, but he kind of should know, right? KC bot lane is probably telling him they're looking to swap, so he's just going to hard push. And then probably they're going to base as well and try to match again, is what I would predict here.
Wouldn't be too surprising. A little bit later in the game, Oscar would have had 6. Would have been nice to be able to get back to those waves faster or set up that potential gank that you mentioned. Still, Fnatic are going to try and pressure.
And this flash here.
If they get the sum, it'll feel like a pretty big victory. Again, just making that lane phase that much harder. Nice backstep from Canna. Mickey taking his time on the Shattering Strike, but a clean flash from Canna. Good reactions to make sure the CC does not connect.
And now Canna is so far behind in tempo. Oscar can push in this top side, and maybe even Fnatic want to try to zone out enemy bot lane here. Caliste, still no cleanse, up in around 15 seconds.
Big Ignite to interrupt.
To be annoying. Oh,
Mickey. Fine with the aftershock. Interrupting the bases, not taking a page from the Heretics book and staying for an extra couple interrupts and potentially risking anything else. Just the one cheeky interrupt.
And they're swapping again. They're just swap into swap into swap. They keep trying to mismatch here. And I think it's Canna the one that's actually bleeding out of this. He lost the wave now on top. Top wave is slow pushing back into Fnatic, and he's going to get stoned off of this wave again.
Yeah, the only nice thing was they managed to get the plate on the bottom side at least. but burning his flash for it. KC now going to look for Dragon on the flip side, but I think at this stage with the mismatch, more than likely going to be Fnatic being able to trade then for the Void Grubs when they spawn in just a minute and a half.
And Fnatic conceding some of the power that the Kalista can bring in the 2v2 to get those favorable lanes, to make sure that Oscar can participate at the very least in this early game, potentially catch out Connie here. The flash is down, lockup is there, nice thundering blow back. The Aftershock just makes him too damn tanky, upset continuing to chase. Pierce not going to hit. Kana able to walk away again, but the isolated 1v1, the blind pick Jayce, something that Fnatic could put a lot of effort into shutting down.
Now you have the ideal lane assignments for Fnatic, with the Sion being able to lane into this Draven with this rated Dirk, and the Jayce being punished by the Rell and the Kalista. This is really nice macro for Fnatic so far.
Also a lot of lane swaps, just like the bulk order on lane swaps.
Yeah.
I don't know if more macro is better macro, but they have definitely given us more macro in this game.
Big up macro.
Yeah. Eventually, you know, if you just swap enough, someone will make a mistake. And as you mentioned, Fnatic's still in a favorable position. 30 seconds away from that grub spawn. See if they're still in a good spot to contest.
Yeah, it's also the fact that Razork is now ticked over to 6 means that you can see Canna kind of has to reset because he's a little nervous if Targamas wasn't there, that you could immediately go for these plays of Pantheon and look for the dives. Especially his upset ticks over to 6 as well. The ability to just reset on tower aggro is going to be disgusting to try and deal with, but I mean, at the moment, no plays.
The problem now is KC wants to try to contest this Herald, these grubs, so that's why they're sending Draven up top. But they're really delayed. So Fnatic are choosing to... Are they swapping again? Okay, now the swaps maybe are getting a bit too crazy here. Because now they're swapping away from the grubs.
Flash
so they
out
might
mid lane.
Give both grubs and Drake to KC. Maybe they overcooked a little. I'm not sure about this one.
Too many swaps.
Yeah, I
A
agree.
little motion sickness on the swaps.
I think as well, even the fact that you had a nice base there, because you're still waiting for the BF sword for Caliste to come through, so you managed to pick up the plated steel caps for upset plus your recurve bow. I think you were in a decent spot on an 80 carry where you could have tried to fight off that little bit of just the expenditure difference. But yeah, going to be KC able to pick up both objectives this early.
One thing to highlight is, in the context of all these swaps, KC up in objectives, as you mentioned. Fnatic have done what they can to mitigate the Jayce having a monster lead. We know Canna can be a problem, but the other big thing is mid lane. Not somewhere we initially expected to talk about, but Vladi getting that flash blown in the 1v1, and it is Humanoid holding on to a pretty decent CS lead. I think Viktor expected to do well in that early lane phase, but Vladi maybe once he has another item under his belt can start to come back here and match that early pressure.
I'm really looking for Fnatic to try to get something out of this swap now. They get the red buff onto Razork, but I really don't feel like it's enough. I would like to see them try to zone Canna, get some sort of CS lead, because when you look across the board, yeah, they've done nice swaps, but they're equal everywhere, and they're down to Drake, and they're down 3 grubs.
Well, the one lead they have is like mid lane has, you know, a decent gold lead, but again, that's
I don't think that's due to the swap.
Mostly built in isolation. Yeah. So you can claim it if you want, but it feels a bit disingenuous. Like, great swaps, guys. Humanoid got a lead. Like, the only person who didn't participate. Hell yeah.
It looks like they might be trying to look. Actually, no. There's the reset. I was about to say you could look for something on the on Caliste.
I think they're looking to swap again.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say you took the Scuttle Crab into your Croak. Now you could move back, into your Gromp, and now you could potentially move into a bot side play here, but looks like, yeah, they're just going to continue to swap and just not let them play. Even the barrier burns, we can't get interrupted.
Okay.
He was scared of the Ignite from Targamas to
cancel the base.
But I'm not sure why they're so hellbent on just swapping over and over again. I mean, the Draven matchup is annoying, but I don't think it's this bad.
You know?
And Sion is great into Draven, but if enemy keeps matching you, you should be happy having that tempo lead and utilizing that. Also, the kind of explosiveness you expect in a game with a Pantheon Kalista Rell hasn't been there. Although, as I say that, Canna stunned, waiting to get close enough so the Thundering Blow can't knock him away. Mickey now going to follow. Canna should just die here. Mickey quick to tank. Reset is there from upset if he needs it. He does. As first blood going through for the side of Fnatic. So they get something, but again, it's not really on the back of the swaps. It's just that top play with Pantheon. And crucially, Canna's flash was still down for another 5-6 seconds. And that enabled Fnatic to make that play.
Humanoid.
Vladi gets some good damage here.
Severing Bolt now just trying to clear the way. Targamas in the area. Humanoid knows that he has to back up. I think this early game, there is a 1k gold lead for Fnatic, right? But they've given a lot of objectives to get it. And if Humanoid goes down here, Severing Bolt flash in, Q! Can't flash that auto, baby!
Really nice play from Yike. You can see him waiting in that Raptor pit, seeing if they could get the damage, and Vladi manages to connect. Now Oscarinin, spotting all the KC are going to be dispersing from the area, but they got the steal.
And this is one of the least violent KC Fnatic games we've seen. But we were looking back, I think we also cast the win for the semifinal. And it's Draven Kalista, and they're not killing each other. Hayden, our stats guy, looking through almost 1 kill a minute on average in that last best of 5 we cast. This is a very different pace of game. I don't know if there's jitters or some overcommitment to lane swaps, or maybe they just had to wait for Vladi to back in a bad time. Vladi, you're gonna die here. Upset though might be in trouble as well. Wukong all to follow. Razork on the way in, but it looks like Kalista should go down. Knockup is there, not enough to stop the second proc of the Cyclone. Now it's Mikyx following as well. Every time Fnatic get a little something, KC just take more.
Good cover again from Yike though, making sure that he was able to get into position. It looked a little weird with the knock-up into the hook, but managing to connect perfectly. Upset goes down, and KC happy to get 2 off the back of it.
And now it's a Drake fight. I think that's coming up here. As we see the replay, I mean, Vladi is a little bit cocky here with the recall. He doesn't have flash. I'm pretty surprised that this ended up turning well for KC, but it's Upset that's kind of jumping to the wrong side. If he jumps up to top side, he could probably avoid the Wukong Nautilus engage, but then he ends up going down. Razork gets cancelled. They don't have the damage.
That was a nice job from Yike, as you say, with the cancel on the engage, the stun. Just works out perfectly, but now his Dragon set up. Flash is burned on towards Razork, Upset and Humanoid. Targamas is caught.
And crucially here, this is Draven's time to shine. If he gets, oh my god,
Mikyx good engage, follow-up is there, but Yike and Kalista are both able to make it out. That's 2 flashes. Targamas and Kalista getting out of the fight, so nice little incremental advantage there. Good catch by Mikyx, knowing that he had backup.
It's phenomenal engage from Mikyx here, and I believe that will be just the Drake going over to Fnatic as they force 2 flashes and force full control of this Dragon.
Nothing much that can be done to respond. Canna wandering up just to poke in with the Shock Blast. Has already completed the Black Cleaver adaptation for that Sion lane just to make sure that he can't threaten Oscar.
And now we're getting to the very tense stages when you play Draven. Because if Draven dies, the game is over. But if Draven gets a kill, the game is also over.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think we have this conversation not very often because we don't have a lot of Draven, but he is, in a weird way, a scaling pick. If you play a passive enough game, eventually you'll have enough stacks to just kill a guy. Just outright.
Like, I thought about it, like, what if you just go to Elder, you have 1,000 stacks, just one-shot every boom.
Yeah. I don't think anyone wants to play that Draven game. If you do, you're either a bad or very boring person, but that single moment might be worth it. That's a lot of dopamine.
I don't know. I like my Stardew Valley in League of Legends. I don't know what you mean.
This man is set up. He's got the berries. He's got the spreadsheet. He is ready to stack. I don't think Kalista's ever played Stardew Valley in his life. I think it's not like a good game. It is a good game.
Maybe.
We'll bring it up. We can ask him on the podcast later. Hopefully it'll be a fun reference and not a reference to losing 250 or so Draven stats. We'll find out. Targamas, nice flash over the wall. Follow up, good CC. Mikyx caught out. Celestial opposition blocks a lot of the initial damage, but a well-timed knockup is at least going to get Upset's ulti out.
But that's that Kalista ulti. If Mikyx doesn't have that here, Kalista can just ulti, get that cash in, and finally snowball this game. But he can't.
And I also think this is a representation of what KC have definitely been improving on over the course of this year. It's just Yike and Targamas working so close together. Targamas going over the wall, Yike there to help out. It's starting to get vision control on this top side, and it's just playing off the fact that Kalista has so much control over this mid wave because he is a Draven with a bajillion stacks. So you can easily threaten Upset and make it easy then for your jungle and support to lean up towards Vladi and keep him safe from his top side.
Also credit to Yike, right? Early game, Razork wasn't able to find too many angles, did burn a couple of flashes. Yike a little bit quieter, but once he's at level 6, he has been everywhere alongside Targamas.
Also, if you look at Kalista's inventory, you might think that looks a little bit strange. He has a lot of different items for different components here, but it's kind of normal on Draven. You like to buy a lot of components. The only thing I would critique is kind of the serrated Dirk, because you are so heavy AD. There is going to be a ton of armor on the side of Fnatic. You can even see Upset rush toward that plated steel caps. But now we got a Herald to test here.
All right. Slight delay on the first item spike for lethality. We'll see if it pays off, if it gets him that payday faster.
Mikyx is on the wrong side of the map.
He caught. Yike to follow. Mikyx can't hit anyone. He'll take tower aggro, so it's just wandering out, waiting to mount. And that's the cash out! Just a huge bag of money hand-delivered to Caliste.
Mikyx just completely out of position there. No safety net at all.
And then give 1,000 gold to Caliste. So now he's finally ahead of this Kalista.
We found the counter to our aggressive engage supports in Europe. If you just make them worth enough money, it's no longer optimal to be playing so deep in Fog of War.
And it's Herald as well, going over to the side of KC. And a huge gold swing here, as they're now 1.5k gold ahead.
And really credit to KC. Again, Fnatic swapped so many times to disrupt their laning strategy, and they were successful. But KC still got objectives, and now KC have cashed out the Draven, everything you could ever want. And you said it, Jack. Well, we'll see if Vladi can make it out of this exchange. Looks like not quite fast enough with the Chaos Storm, excuse me. Follow up there. Now it looks like Humanoid just going to fall. Another TP in. TP going to be matched by KC. It's starting to fall apart for the side of Fnatic.
Every time Fnatic seem to look at somewhere on the map, Yike is there. Like, every point that Fnatic have tried to attack, both Targamas and Yike have been there to defend, and they're doing a fantastic job of just getting these leads. You're now a 3-kill Wukong. You've got 5 assists to Vladi. He's the one who's been protected.
But it's an incredibly odd decision by Humanoid. Your support is dead, your jungler's both side, and you try to go for a solo kill when enemies just done Herald. These sort of mistakes from top teams, they're going to cost you.
And these are the things that Giant X actually started to exploit in their series against Fnatic as well. Now, it never led to the victory, but you could definitely see it was punishing Oscarinin and Humanoid as they overextended in side lanes, or when Fnatic went for plays, Giant X were there to cover, and a lot of that came from, hey, we've got these double semi-global ultimates on our jungler in game 1 and 2, but it's still a very clear game plan that it seems KC are kind of taking a leaf out of that book on cover sides, beat Fnatic.
Yeah. And it's working fantastically so far. 2.5k gold lead. Yes, 1,000 of that is a single kill, but it's what you want to see when you have the Draven on your team. You mentioned before, Draven gets the catch out, game is over. Now, we're not there yet, but it does feel like the runway is clear, and Fnatic can't afford to be making more sloppy mistakes, can't afford to get caught on side lanes.
They've definitely set KC up for success here. We'll see this Drake contest, but Targamas on the wrong side of the wall.
Hasn't procced Aftershock, so he's just going to get one popped here. Beautifully layered CC. If he hit anyone, if he autoed anyone, he would have been too damn tanky, but they just nail him.
But both supports here making crucial mistakes before objectives, with Mickey getting caught out before the Herald, and now Targamas getting caught out before the Drake. It's this little bit of maybe nervousness or just trying to go for a little bit too much, but both teams are eager to pounce, and Kalista's far up
on the way in. Caliste locked up. That's going to be big money over to the side of Upset. Now they're trying to keep the fight going. Spyline to spare out, but Razork's not going to take a whole hell of a lot of damage. Mount up. Into the Herald from Herald, ramming into Humanoid, getting the ulti down as well. Styling as he gets the reset. He might look for one more, flashing out. Yike playing like a demon in this game.
Yike is making a montage on him with the Combat Herald into the ultimate as he takes down Humanoid. That was beautiful.
That was sick from Yike, and honestly, great to capitalize on what was going to be a big Fnatic win. Caliste overextended in mid. You never saw Fnatic showing the bot wave, but still tried to make the play on upset. But now, here we go.
Again, Mickey making his way out there. Now it looks like it's Targamas who's overextended. Vladi does easy damage, but not enough to tear through Upset's Hellfire. Razork chasing, that's one down. Upset stepping past the grasping Mara. KC backing off, but Targamas caught again.
And the fights just continue here as nobody's taking this Ocean Drake. They just want to keep fighting each other. And now, with Targamas being dead for 10 seconds, maybe Fnatic can finally get control?
We broke the seal. Now it's all fights all the time.
Yeah, but you see here, Fnatic never showed in the bot wave. Caliste went for the play aggressive onto Upset, and immediately Mickey and Razork were able to collapse. Although Humanoid here definitely went too far, but now topside, wait, what?
Oscar going in. Canna now running, trying to get the extra movement speed. One more auto, Q flash forward, a little bit more damage. Oscar desperate to finish the kill. Yike on the way, going to be forced back. The Baba's special, not going to see it, but Canna playing with fire there.
Oscar having a great game on the Sion here, being equal CS and being able to pressure out the Jayce. It's absolutely what you love to see as a Fnatic fan, a bounce back week from him after that tough performance against G2.
Well, and also the investment paying off on a lot of those early swaps, which we drew question to because it did mean giving up a lot of objectives. The thing that they were playing for was to make sure that Oscar had the best time that he possibly could. 900 extra HP from the Soul Furnace. Able to threaten at least a little bit here and there with that ulti on top side.
This is a weird start on Dragon from Fnatic, though. They don't have any ultimates available. Oscarinin, Razork, Humanoid, and Upset all down, so definitely not in a position to go for it. They did TP Oscarinin into that bottom side to try and push the wave, but KC might actually just collapse on him if he's not careful.
I swear this Ocean Drake has been alive for 7-8 minutes now, as neither team is really able to fully play for it. It's every time they try, a fight breaks out, or the other team is able to leverage control. We'll see if Fnatic can break the seal.
List. Has the flash, has the cleanse. Comfortable to sit around here in mid lane. Vladi and Targa there to cover as Oscar takes up home in the bottom side. Is this the moment? They have Crab in their favor, they're clearing vision, they have Kalista. Surely this is just a free objective.
Yeah, Yike and Targamas recalled. I think Fnatic can just finish this. But
there are pings.
Yeah, there. Looks like KC wants to try to contest still. Nah, they're dropping it.
They're just maybe a cheeky shot blast over the wall. Maybe see if anyone wanders a bit too far.
No way.
Oh! What a steal in Korean! This man is spit!
Oh my god, when the Ren smite timing fails.
Why are solo laners stealing so many objectives in this playoffs? What is... it's against Kalista.
It was a curse
It's against Kalista. It's mathematically impossible. I'm not a mathematician, but it's impossible.
Dragon was just cursed, I think. It
Yeah,
took
okay.
10 minutes to slay, and it was stolen anyway.
Yeah, there's someone who's made a fantasy league out there somewhere who is delighted that there's been these steals coming through.
Some absolute wacko who's like, Canna's going to steal an objective. You were right. I don't know how. Prophetic, some would say. Okay, so I was going to say good on, Fnatic getting some objectives, putting themselves, I was going to say all these things about Soul Point, Kalista as an objective team, they catch, but Targamas still a good buffer.
Very deep here. Yike is behind.
Yike with a follow-up, and this is where Kalista just gets a free auto. That is a terrifying Draven. Upset is dead. Mikyx will scoot his way out of Upset's body to find a way back under the tower. Excellent pick from KC.
Fnatic didn't need to try and force it though. You had everyone on reset and now make it more.
Oscar on the way in, I think, just to try and delete the wave. There's no hope really here of taking the fight, just trying to get them out. Mikyx will fall to Vladi, but now KC want more. Canna is out for blood. He took an objective. He wants to take their lives. Knocked back with a thundering blow. Taken his sweet time in the mid lane, baby. The montage does not stop. Caliste with a double in mid.
And KC are just getting absolutely everything as Fnatic are so disjointed. First Upset and Mikyx trying to go for too much in enemy jungle, and then they get shut down under tower as they try to defend 3v5. It's just the type of incoherence that we've unfortunately grown used to from Fnatic.
And it's going to cost them. KC over towards Adakan, a TP coming in. They're going to try and punish the mid lane push from Canna.
But Canna has the blast
Yes, the plant, I think.
Bit of a slow coming in from Humanoid, now trying to chase. Extra movement speed from the form swap. There's just not an angle. That's Thornbound down. Otacon to the side of KC, and well, I was wondering how the Draven would fit into this comp, and he's certainly fitting his boot up Fnatic's backside pretty good.
I think Wukong is doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to make AD carry propaganda right now, and you're the person who's going to shut me down.
Wukong?
I am seeing the Wukong, yeah.
I was going to say, it's also 2v3. Like, look at where the rest of Fnatic are on the map. Like, this play made no sense. It felt like Fnatic were like, oh, we have to make a play because we're behind. But in the grand scheme of things, I think they were still in a position to try and take the fights. But now Vladi got a ton of kills off the back of this. The mid lane terror's fallen. Like, it feels like you've just handed, well, said boot over to Fnatic, or KC on a silver platter.
Yeah, I mean, credit to KC again. Canna still able to find a way to get these advantages despite so much attention being paid to make sure that he can't have the 1v1 lane, and Caliste delivering on the Draven. We're in Fearless, right? So if KC don't win the game where Canna gets Jayce, or Fnatic don't win the game where Upset gets Kalista, that feels like a huge blow as we get deeper into the best of 5. It's Mikyx caught out. Kalista doing a lot of damage here. Mikyx just going to get one shot. Reset now coming in. It's Yike. Once again, the monkey just keeps spinning. Oscar going to try to disengage. Looks like Yike will finally go down. Or will he? Yes. Soulfront is going to pop, and now it's Vladi with the perfect setup to follow through. Humanoid goes golden, but the timing will keep him standing for an extra second. Not enough for him to take down Caliste. Down he goes. Caliste unstoppable. And the game is over. It might look like there are players still alive. There might still be structures, but KC are too damn strong.
I mean, Oscarinin does get 1,000 gold from Yike here as Targamas tries to flash over the side to block his escape, but he still ends up getting out. But you see how strong Yike is on this Wukong. He can just jump into 4 members and cause so much havoc in the back line. And I don't really see Fnatic having that much counterplay against it.
But also, like, just come back to your point there, Drake, because it doesn't really feel like it's a handling difference on the champions or even a draft diff. It's just decision making on Fnatic in a lot of these cases. You see there, Mikyx gets caught out. KC then able to jump into the backline. Yike doing so much work. This was just a great team fight setup from KC, able to punish super effectively. And even here, Humanoid getting caught by the maw. Goes golden, but it's just into the waiting hands of Caliste as soon as he comes out.
Yeah, and I think overall, you look at that fight, Yike, I think, over-eager on the engage. The rest of his team can actually enter the fight. There's some good efforts to zone away Caliste, to zone away Vladi. But he still lives for so long, and that's a testament to the gold lead. And when he finds the good engage, where the team is there to back him up, where Vladi especially is there to back him up, it feels really unplayable for Fnatic. And with both these teams maybe wanting to fight front to back, KC are going to be ones who are getting set up first. They've just got more towers. They've got prio. They've got stronger sides. This is a tough point to play through.
And when you look at items right now, it's looking really scary for Fnatic. 3 items on the Draven, nearly 3 items on the Wukong as well. And it's just, I think they're hard out DPS, so it looks like they're just going to have to drop this Ocean Drake. But I don't know if it really gets better for them as the game progresses.
Yeah, he can see as well. They're even shifting both Vladi and Targamas up to that top side, so kind of can get the wave as well. They're covering side lanes well, so even if Fnatic want to try and go for some sort of counter punch, it's not even there. So
they don't even have full control of the Nash either. They don't have any Nash pressure. The game is slowly slipping out of Fnatic's hands. I think they really need a great engage onto Caliste or Yike going way too deep.
I think you're completely correct, and I think one of the difficult points is in the laning phase at least, Humanoid was winning in isolation, died on a side lane. Vladi has been comparatively quiet in this game, but things are easy for him. He didn't have to stop and get a Seekers or a Zhonya's. He's going to be able to stand so far away and deal so much damage, and Razork's opportunities to find these side lane plays on the Pantheon are only getting more limited as we get further in this game.
But the reason that's happened is because of the decision making for Fnatic in that late early game to early mid game, where they're like, oh, we want to try and go for that flank with Mickey, where he gets caught out underneath the enemy tower, ends up dying. Then we try and go for the plays around Dragon, which aren't really working out for us. And even then, Upset and Mickey try and take a 2v3. So it's just been weird decisions from Fnatic that are pretty uncharacteristic. I will say, like, these are not things that we traditionally see from Upset and Mickey as much as trying to take 2v2s like that, but it's never the case again, Baron. Yeah.
Wow. Fnatic don't even walk up to contest here. As now, it's looking very tough for them. I think they really need KC to get a little bit too over-eager, trying to hit a tower when they're a little bit split up, and then Mickey can flash in. That would be what I'm thinking right now if I was in the game. Need to look out for a numbers advantage fight.
It's so difficult, because if they had gone for a full hyperscaling plan, you could argue, hey, we have a Sion, we've got the better front line. If this is a Jinx, if it's a Zeri, like, yeah, maybe there's an angle. They picked the Kalista, and while Kalista is better late game than she used to be, we've talked about this, her ability to just glide with the passive changes, you still don't want to be trading autos with Yike, Canna, or Caliste in most fights.
Yeah, and it's hard to glide against a incredibly fed Wukong that one-shots you as soon as he gets on top of you.
Yeah. You can't glide on the glider. That man is literally spinning, just moving.
Can't glide on the spinner.
Yeah, can't glide on the spinner.
It looks like one of those game shows, you know, where they just spin the thing, get a jump over, and Calista's not getting over.
You're not moonwalking in the Beyblade arena, Bucko. There's no room for that. So, I mean, again, credit to Yike. This is not the early game that I was expecting, but it has turned into an incredibly dominant mid into late game now from KC. Fnatic in a position many teams have found themselves in, trying to find a way to come back. And it might rely on KC making some of those same fumbles that they did in their series yesterday. Although I imagine that they've probably learned from those mistakes.
Yeah, you can see them grouping up here with just a nice any sort of engage from Mikyx. What you really want to look for when an enemy team has Nasher is when they try to play multiple lanes and they actually split up, and you can punish one of the people that are on side or the people that are not grouped. But when they're all together like this, okay, Oscarinin tries to go.
Body block goes in from Targa. Caliste flashing out. Interrupt from Targa is also good. Ulti on to Upset, buying a bit more space. Upset's now going to be in trouble trying to zone his way back, but it's Canna on the flank. Keep your eyes on this Jayce. Where does he go in? Hammer form, decent damage, knocking back Mickey. Upset forced back as well, and Yike finally going with the ulti. Good disruption coming in, but Oscarinin cannot channel a Q. CC used beautifully to stop the Sion from getting any effect as all of Fnatic forced to retreat, likely to give up the tower, but are going to be sprinting out of base for the re-engage.
They managed to get the health bars back though, so they won't lose the inhibitor, but can they get more off the back? Mickey trying desperately to chase them down, but there's just no one here.
I mean, to be honest, they kind of pulled off a miracle here. They ended up getting a 1-for-0 in a fight that looked really bad for them, with Oscarinin starting it off just solo ulting Targamas and Yike having a great flank, but Fnatic were able to peel off, and they kind of salvaged the Nash here. They only gave over 2 towers, which all in all is really good for them.
I think it was the fact that KC just couldn't really get underneath the towers. So as Oscarinin goes in here, you see Yike and Canna starting to move across to threaten the backline, but can't really move in. Vladi and Calista are too far away from having access, and then Upset is able to step away with Oscarinin kind of playing to push back that back.
And it was a great Kalista ult from Mickey to cancel Yike's engage onto Upset that allowed him to finally kite it out and survive. I think if Yike gets that engage off, the game would just end right there.
Yeah, a single carry going down, the wave clear's gone, that inhibitor, easy pickings. The slightest differences here. Oscar able to live, Carry's able to survive as well. KC's still gonna have the first setup on the Drake here, using the last few seconds of that Baron just to make sure they have mid push.
An Ocean Soul. Typically, we don't value it that highly, but when you're up against a comp like Fnatic, I don't think they have that much burst damage. It's kind of slow stacking with the Kalista, and this Viktor build is kind of vegan. It's not doing that much damage. So if they get Ocean Soul, I don't see Fnatic being able to take down this front line.
That would be tough. The vegetarian Viktor build. Pescatarian, still eats fish. KC Zoned away a bit by Oscar. Oscar's still pretty damn tanky. Unending Despair at least healing up some of the damage, but Yike is really unconcerned. Quick use of the clone. Follow-up now from the ulti coming in from Razork. Instant Spiraling Despair right as the Aegis Assault fades away, though he's going to be slowed up, and it's Canna isolated. Canna for a brief moment. Has he overstayed? Flashing out, held onto it for so long, and it's Yike going in again, finding 3 members. Caliste untouched on the backside. Mikyx retreating. The Draven free to run rampant in the exchange. Upset running for his life, taking Mikyx with him. KC get the exchange, losing not a single member. Oscarinin sent packing, and this might just be the game.
KC's had the fight in their sights, and they knew exactly how they wanted to try and play it out, separating the backline from Fnatic and taking them down bit by bit.
Yeah, Targamas just wonderfully zoned off upset here with the help of Vladi, which just made it so he couldn't join his team. And with that, it's going to be the soul for KC. They're probably going to be able to break up an inhibitor here as well. Maybe they back off, but just the soul in and of itself might be what broke the camel's back.
Yeah. Fear into Oscar, and you can just see Yike frontlining pretty effortlessly there. Has the Thunder Sky, has Ocean now. They're going to need the full commit to a fight, and KC have the time to play sidelines here. Knock down another tier 2.
And it's a 10,000 gold lead. Ocean Soul, Nash spawning in a minute. It's going to be tough for Fnatic.
And it must be so hard to be a player in this situation where you're simultaneously thinking about what the hell do you do next game while trying to hold enough of your brain in this game to know that if there is an opportunity for a comeback, you have to find it, but this was not it.
Yeah, especially as you see, Canna just jumps onto Humanoid after getting past everyone there, and then Oscarinin is trying to buy space on the backline, but once he's used that decimating smash, it opens up for KC to go forward. Yike then buys the space for Canna. Targamas is on towards Mikyx, and with that ultimate that was already highlighted, Upset gets forced out of the fight as well, so KC just get to play the fight as they want, picking off one by one as they move through it.
And Canna, not a tanky guy, but even when 3 people turn to face him, if they're not on top immediately, Upset just takes too much time to do relevant damage to this Jayce. Flanking Jayce buying 8 seconds was not on my bingo card.
KC's draft at this point is also so much easier to execute. Like, if you compare Wukong ultimate to Pantheon ultimate, there's a pretty big gap there in ease of execution. That's Oscar trying to get some control of this Nash here, but it's so difficult. I think KC can just turn wherever. Caliste can tank this Nash forever. There's really no wrong play for KC here.
We'll see. If that prediction remains true. Or if you're going to be roasted forever for a massive capture curse. But I'm inclined to agree with you. 9k lead. They haven't covered the top side of the map. Fnatic buying time to play on these waves through top, but it still might just be a 50-50. Oscar taking a bunch of damage. Now, if they lose him, they might just lose in an instant. Fnatic forced away to try and contend in the fight as Caliste just continues to solo objective. This is a 4v5, and it might be the best fight that they get, but Oscar's already dead right as the fight is starting. Severing Bolt, not enough. The shield from the Soul Furnace keeping him standing. Yike zoned back, but he can just go in at a moment's notice. He's in the base, breaking an inhibitor. Fnatic being herded around the map.
Caliste is still off Baron. Yike isn't even there.
Yike running. Caliste wants to finish the objective. But Yike might give his life. This is big for Fnatic, a decent opportunity. Baron there, but they're going to lose at least 60 seconds because Yike isn't a part of the picture.
I think they tunnel visioned a bit too much on trying to stop Razork from ulting in and stealing the Nash.
But it's not the Team Heretics game where Caliste was mid. This is a split focus one, but they're so ahead.
I mean, they still got the Nash, so it's still a pretty big win.
I'm not telling you it's a good play, but the context of this game is that they are so wildly far ahead that I don't. It's a little oops.
I will say, if KC does not get 3 inhibitors with this Nash, it's winnable for Fnatic in the Elder fight if they can get an Elder flip. But if they get 3 inhibs, it's pretty done.
What would the game state need to look like for you not to say that a team could win it in the Elder flip? That's my question.
Well, if you lose 3 inhibs, because then enemy team
it.
just presses S, minions end the game.
Fair enough. Controversial press S strat. Mikyx going in under the tower, full engage, but a nice peel back. They're getting deleted. Caliste catching in as Vladi finds a perfect combo across the entire fight. Despair of Fnatic.
And you killed Caliste, but at what cost here? As KC have them routed, they're going to be able to pick off Oscar. Maybe not.
Running. Targa on the chase. Oh! Hits him with the Pengu.
And it's 30-second death timers here. You have to feel that KC can just run it down.
That was heartbreaking for Upset. He flashed into the maw from Vladi and immediately regrets his life choices. But I think that's kind of been the story a little bit for Fnatic in this one as KC look to take game number 1.
And it was a brawl. It was a well-fought game. Some mistakes coming in from both teams, but ultimately it's KC that looked a lot stronger in this game 1.
Weathered the early game storm, responded well to the swaps, got the objectives, took the fights, found better picks. KC incredible momentum here coming out from game one. Nearly picture perfect performance